Okay, welcome back. This is going to be the third video in the farm tour where I covered fields and yields in the first one. I covered the farm place in the next one. And this one's going to be the equipment tour. Don't prepare yourself to be impressed. A lot of this stuff is older than I am. We're small scale farmers and we're gradually making small steps to grow. It seemed like the first few years we did hay, it was just about building momentum, and now we're kind of catching some traction. It's like the tires are spinning in the mud, and now we're starting to get some traction where we can see there can be some improvements made, and maybe we can start getting some aggressive moves forward, so to speak. I've already ordered a building. It's delivered, and that's going to be improvements for the farm place. But now we're going to start talking about the equipment. And I'm going to start off with the tractors. The first tractor we have is a 1486, an International 1486, and it's the only tractor we have that's cabbed with air conditioning and heat. And the good and the bad about it is it's 140 horsepower. There's nothing we have that needs 140 horsepower when it comes to putting up hay. We put it on the mower, which is great, and we also use it on the round baler, which is John Deere 566. The problem is 1486 has so much power that when the baler starts taking in too much hay, or it starts getting some chunks that it's starting to choke it up, if you had a smaller tractor, it would just slow the tractor down and it'd give you a warning that you're probably pushing it too hard and you need to throttle down. A 1486 though, it will power through that, and that's when it starts really pulling down on those belts. And I've seen the belts tear apart rollers on that round baler. I've also burnt up a gear case with that thing. So it's really expensive if you don't know what you're doing and you're putting an overpowered tractor on a baler. But like I said, it's the only thing we have with a cab. So if you're rolling around in a real dusty hay machine, baler of some sort, and you want to have that comfort of sitting in the cab, we put it on that. And you gotta just be mindful, take your time, go slow if you're gonna have something that overpowered. We're actually looking for something in the 100 horsepower, maybe 80 to 100 horsepower for our next improvement. Something that's cabbed with a loader would be ideal. In a smaller range, we're not one of those guys that spend $50, $60 to $100,000, $150,000 on new tractors. We go for the used, field tested would be the nicer way to say it. We go for that stuff. So that is a 1486. The other tractor we have that we use substantially for our hay operation is the International 856. The International 856, it's cabless, obviously, you can tell that. Most of the time we have it hooked up to the Farmhand F11 loader, and we move a lot of round bales with this thing. Anything else where we need to reach high places, we got a few attachments where we can shut off the valves on the loader and trust that with that safety mechanism engaged, we can stand on platforms in elevated spaces if we need to be. The 856, I think I said already that it's 100 horsepower. We've used it to do some mowing. I primarily use it for the Bale Wagon. It's got enough drawbar strength and durability, as well as horsepower to use this New Holland 1034 Bale Wagon. And I like it because it's easier to get on and off from. The 1486, we've hooked that up to a Bale Wagon before, but when you want to get in and out of it, you got to fumble with the doors. And then the steps, I don't like the steps on the 1486 because they're straight down and it's easy to lose your footing. I keep thinking of a scenario where I'm going to slide my foot through one of the steps and my face will go down, but my foot will stay up by the tractor, which I can only imagine how horrible that is on your knees and face. But honestly, I'm not too worried about aesthetics. Anyway, so that is the 856 has better steps to get up and down this tractor, and it works better for the Bale Wagon as far as when you're trying to back it into a building and get things unloaded. And it's one of those instances, not having a cab is actually kind of nice. So that's the 856. Then below that, in horsepower terms, we have the International 560. The International 560, we've tried using the farmhand loader on that before. I don't know, the 560 just does not want to start as readily as other stuff, as you may notice here. It will start on a good day. It does want to come to work, but it's an old boy, and when it's tired, and it doesn't want to do anything. So the 560 doesn't get used for much. Maybe we'll hook it up to a hay rake, but anything else, not so much. And it's got no 3-point, so that's kind of a bummer too. So to have the loader on that tractor with no 3-point, you can only move around one round bale at a time. So it's kind of, I think this old tractor is on its way out, but we still love it. I mean, you got to. And then below that, I think this 560 is about 60 horsepower. And below that, we have a Zetter 5211. It's some foreign jobby, but it's still a nice tractor, and we can find parts for it nearby. So that's kind of essential. If you're buying a tractor, you want to make sure you have parts for it nearby. And this one, I think, is about 45 to 50 horsepower. We use this primarily for the baler. We also have like a wood chipper that will hook up to it sometimes. If we're doing any sort of arborist work, it's nice to have that tractor. It's got enough power to run that wood chipper, and it can... it's real maneuverable. You can get into tight spaces and long trees. But when you hook this thing up to a square baler, this is where it kind of does the most efficient work. It's a 10-gallon fuel tank, and you think, oh, you must be filling that up all the time. Not really. I think we've used that all day, like over a 10-hour day, and used maybe a half a tank just to run this a small square baler. You just let that thing kind of do its work, and the funny thing is the ram on the baler will make the tractor shake. Every time it punches back, you'll feel a little, shock backwards, which is fine. It's not enough to stop the machine. Actually, I think it's just perfectly balanced to spend 5 gallons of fuel to put up, several thousand bales if you put up that many in a day. It's great to pair with a small square baler and do a little light utility work. We should probably put a canopy on it or something like that, because it does get a little warm sitting out in the sun on that thing all day. I like this machine for the most part. Getting in and out of it's kind of tricky because my knees are big, and sliding underneath the steering wheel, it gets kind of cumbersome, but it's still a nice tractor. The kids like to take short, slow rides on it. Nothing too wild. For a small farm, this is a great tractor to have, especially when you start adding some implements like dirt scrapers and, tillers, planters, or something like that. It's nice to have. Okay, from there, we're going to go to the hay equipment. We use a Heston 1340. It's one of those hydro swing ones, so you can have it go to the left or right. It's a disc bind mower. I prefer disc bind. We get into some thick grass, and I find that sickle bars are just not very good for the grass that we do. So this mower's been great. We'll pair it up with the 856 or the 1486. All together, not a lot of complaints. We messed around with a new idea, 3-point mower. That was garbage. It kept tearing apart. Like the end disc bind, the end blade kept getting torn out, and you'd have to take the things out, mess with the gears, and it was garbage. So the Heston is a great hay machine for mowing. And after the mowing, like I said, we have a John Deere 566. The net wrap sometimes works, and it might just be user incompetence on this guy. It's got an auto kicker, which is awesome. And because when we bought it from the dealer, the guy was saying it didn't have a kicker. And we're like, well, that's kind of a bummer. And we didn't know what a kicker looked like. We knew they existed. We just didn't know what they looked like. So I was shopping around for a kicker to add to it. And what I was seeing looked strangely similar to that was already on the machine. And I found out, like, oh, we do have a kicker. There is one on the machine. It's just like the chain or there's some springs that you're supposed to hook up, that when the door opens, it stretches the spring out and then it kicks it. That just wasn't hooked up. It was disconnected. And that's all it was. So we had a kicker. Those kind of surprises don't happen very often. So I've saved $1,500 trying to buy a kicker. At the same time, when I was talking about the 1486 being too much power and burning up a gear case, I spent probably $1,400 replacing a gear case. So, you win some, you lose some. So that's the John Deere 566. We also do baling with the New Idea 7210, I believe it's called. Yeah, New Idea 7210 inline baler. A huge improvement from the International 440 we're using before. Instead of a side pickup, it's an inline pickup. And this baler is much wider, and we found that its capacity to take on thick rows is far, far better. Like, we've increased the strokes per minute, and I think it's just sturdier and stronger. I've gone through some pretty thick rows of canary grass, in which would have sheared pins and stopped the machine on the 440 that we used to use. But the inline baler just kept going. And I've seen it shear pins, but it takes a lot. And I don't see much that actually stops it. As long as you know how to pace yourself on the thicker stuff, you're good. I timed it once where it does match what I believe what the factory setting says it should do, or what the factory specs say it should do. You can do about 400 bales an hour with this machine. So once that thing gets going, you want the bale wagon ready right behind it, because you're just not going to keep up. Like, I've matched speed with my dad with the bale wagon and his baler, and we're about the same speed as far as how quickly we can pick them up. But then I got to go take the bales home, and then he's still baling. So the time it takes me for the bales to get unloaded and then back in the field, he might have like 200 more bales down on the ground. Speaking of bale wagons, we use a Bale Wagon 1034. It's a 3-wide bale wagon. You can go look at some previous videos where I sort of introduce you or show you how we use them. I started using a pallet system where if I know the hay's not going to be sold right away, I'll put a pallet on the bale wagon, so when it slides off, it's already on a pallet. We also added these custom hooks on the side of the bale wagon in which I'll hang a hog panel. I do the first 4 layers of the bale wagon. I'll just take that panel off the side of the bale wagon and drop it in between 4 and 5, and that'll hold the stack together really well. Real steady. Like, you can walk around on top of them and they're not going to fall apart. And then you might think, oh, now you got to have all these panels ready. Not really, because what I do is once I drive back to the building, tip the stack up, drive away, there's already the panels inside the building, so I just put the sticks up against the stack to keep the stack steady as I drive away. I'll just put a panel back on the bale wagon and keep on going. Go get another load. So that's how we use a bale wagon, the 1034. Some of these systems have a auto tie built into it. Ours does not. So instead of getting off the tractor and tying the layers like I used to do, I just drop a panel on them. And I think that's a lot faster and more efficient. I will say, though, trying to get those pallets onto the rack initially is kind of not the most ergonomically or physically forgiving way. They're heavy, so I'm usually the one that does it. Let's see, we also have a New Holland Bar Rake, a New Holland Twin Bar Rake. That's hydraulically driven. We used to have a V rake that was the wheels that went along the ground, where the ground drove the wheels itself. We got rid of that because we noticed coming out of winter, your first cut would start digging up the dead grass from the year before and putting that into your first cut's windrow. And so we wanted a rake that could power through heavier windrows, which we'd run into. We'd run into stuff that was too thick and clog up a V-rake. But we also wanted something where you can set the depth where you're not scraping the ground. Because as you scrape that ground, you're going to dig up that dead grass and throw it into your windrow. And it kind of messes up the aesthetics of the bale. So we use this New Holland Bar Rake that's hydraulically driven. Okay, and then from there, I got something that I'm pretty optimistic about, but it challenges my technical expertise or my mechanical ability. We have this New Holland stack retriever truck, or it's a New Holland stack retriever bed on an International truck. The International truck is junk. I was able to drive it back from South Colorado, and it's an old gas burner, terrible mileage, incredibly weak, and a lot of engine blow by, so there's oil smoke screens behind the truck, and it's kind of a heap. And whenever you want it to start, it seems like you spend several hours trying to get the thing problem solved and started before you can do any work. So in that time, I decided instead of trying to fix the truck, I'll just go pick up the bales myself with a bale wagon. The retriever bed is designed to slide underneath the stacks that the bale wagon creates. So the idea is the bale wagon makes a stack of 105. Some are bigger, some go up to 160. And then the truck is supposed to slide underneath that stack, grapple it, pull it back down onto a truck, and drive away with it. This would be a huge game changer for our operation, particularly for the field. That's what I called in the previous video. I call the field the Town 53, or the town field that has 53 acres. We have a hard time getting all the squares home because we have to drive from the other side of town to bring it home. The retriever truck would be able to just grab the stacks within a couple minutes, bring them home, tip them up under a roof, and just keep shuttling back and forth. When a customer needs a load of hay delivered, I don't have to load it by hand, which would be immensely huge saver. I would have to start working out regularly because I think in my 30s, the way I've been able to keep some of this weight off is because I keep having to load this hay. But with the retriever truck, I could grab the stacks out of the field. I can deliver them under a roof. I can grab them from the roof and deliver them to the customers. I just need to fix quite a few things. I may need to even redesign or have someone redesign and install a different fork system for the beds. Instead of the arms that kind of go out and grab it, maybe I'll just build some pallet forks that slide underneath our pallets, with the top grabbing it from the top and then pulling it down onto the truck bed. I would be able to keep the truck a little bit narrower, since I didn't have to have the arms to flare out and grab stacks. And, I could keep the stacks closer together. But that's a different problem. And the reason I want to do that is because the middle spear that's on the truck now, if I'd known more then about these retriever beds, I would have probably haggled with the guy. I got a decent price. It was under 10 grand for the whole thing, and it was driving and operating. But I probably would have haggled even more, because that middle spear was some guy's, I don't know if it was his job or a neighbor's, a friend's who knew how to weld. They just slabbed a bunch of steel together, and it's real ugly. It tears up the turf whenever you use it, and I think it needs to be redone altogether with better steel. I got that retriever bed, and about a year ago, I bought this International 4700 truck. It's got the TT466 diesel engine. So this thing is far more dependable, far more durable and sturdier, and it's got no bed on it right now. There's they torched off the PTO from whatever they had on there before. So I got this part of a PTO shaft attached to the PTO, which makes me a little concerned. I'm pretty sure the PTO still spins, but it's not a big deal if that's got to be torched off or fixed. I might have an extra one for that anyway, so I'm not too worried. It's not impossible. People do it all the time. It's just one of those things that I don't do it all the time. So it's a little bit beyond my mechanical expertise, and it's going to be kind of time intensive. If it's not time intensive on my end, then it's going to be probably cost intensive. Like, we're a small operation, so we got to be very careful in where we put our investments as far as money that's available to improve, because you want to be at the most cost effective. And in order to make that truck more effective, I got to have a roof for it, which, like I said before, I've already purchased a building. So I got to have the building up, and then I got to have the truck to go with it. And then we'll be able to increase our capacity. My ideas for the capacity and the goals is going to be explained in the January 2020 goals setting video. So there'll be actually a fourth video with this. All right, so from there, let's see, we got through all the hay equipment that we use in the trucks. We also have an F350, a 2007 F350 dual rear wheel Super Duty truck. The flatbed, I can get about 100 square bales on it and do deliveries with that. So that's pretty effective. It's a bare bones truck, nothing fancy, no frills. That's kind of the way we wanted it. It's real easy to clean out because it's all like vinyl, or it's all plastic. So it's the ideal truck for our operation and our personalities. And we also have a 24-foot gooseneck trailer that I'm not a big fan of. It's old. We bought it fairly beat up. It's got the wrong wheels and tires on it. I think it's got truck tires on it. 7,000-pound axles, but single tire. I would like to have something that's dual axle, dual tire, or maybe even a sturdier bumper pole, so I can hook the bumper pole up to the truck and use the flatbed of the truck and the bumper pole trailer for storage, as opposed to a more expensive gooseneck trailer that doesn't allow you to store anything on the flatbed with the gooseneck hooked up. So that is the tour of our equipment as we have it now. There's a few small odds and ends here or there that I don't need to go into because it's not really related to hay. What I wanted to do is give you an idea of what this farm place is like and how our operation runs. So when I get to a point where I need to start making improvements or debating a purchase, you guys can give an educated opinion or input, and we can go from there. All right, so again, my website is MyAir Nebraska and myairimage.com. If you want to shop around and look at any photos or comment on which ones are your favorite, anything I raise there or through YouTube videos, I tend to use to make farm improvements or go to something farm related. All right, thanks for watching, everybody. Hit that subscribe button. I think there's a bell as well. Everyone keeps saying, yeah, hit this bell to be alerted when I posted videos. I don't promise these videos every week. I wish I had the time to do that, but I don't. Like I said, I do this and got the family, a daytime job, and some hobbies and all that other stuff. I do too many things. This one I thought would be interesting enough for you to watch. Anyway, have a good one, and I'll see you in the next one.